Have you ever woken up in those moments when everything seems fine, yet you feel a desperate urge to tear it all down? Amid the ideal life society handed you, the good job, the peaceful home, the polished smiles, have you heard that dark whisper rising from the basement of your soul? Dostoyevsky calls this the underground. Today, we aren't just discussing a book, we are dissecting why the tight straitjacket of normalcy worn by modern man must be shredded. So, we are entering that uncanny territory where 2 times 2 does not always equal 4, where logic ends and pure spite begins. At Daily Books, we don't care for the dusty summaries found on library shelves. We exhibit the dark intelligence you won't even admit to yourself. If you're tired of being played like a piano key by the hands of others, this 25-minute journey will haunt you. By the end, you will be forced to ask, am I truly living, or am I just a victim of this flawless script written for me? Welcome to the underground. Now, let's enter a bit further into that damp room, into that dark corner where spite transforms into a life force. The underground man begins with a confession. I am a sick man. I am a spiteful man. His liver hurts, yet he refuses to see a doctor. Why? Lack of money? No, simply out of spite. This might sound absurd to you. Your logical, modern minds immediately intervene. If he doesn't go to the doctor, he hurts himself. Who benefits from that? This is exactly where Dostoevsky slaps your sterile logic in the face. By refusing to heal, who is the underground man declaring war against? Medicine? Humanity? No. He turns his own existence into a tool of protest. I am in pain, and by not soothing this pain, I am throwing a wrench in the perfect workings of the universe. Think about it. Have you ever neglected yourself because you were angry at someone, accelerating your own downfall by saying, let them see how bad I am? This is conscious inertia. The underground man turns his pain into an object of pleasure. Imagine that man enjoying a toothache. Those moans stem not just from pain, but from the toxic satisfaction of knowing he is disturbing his family's peace. Whisper. How base, isn't it? But how honest. He doesn't wear the mask of, I am a good person. He unleashes that ugly, whining, selfish creature inside. Because to heal is to surrender to the system. And by staying sick, he proves he is free. But this man is not stupid. That is the tragedy. He bears the curse of being hyper-conscious. Dostoevsky divides people into 2, men of action and underground men. Men of action, those normal people, stop when they face an obstacle. Dostoevsky calls this the wall. What is this wall? The laws of nature, mathematics, 2 times 2 making 4. When the normal man sees this wall, he retreats respectfully. Logic dictates this, he says, and finds peace. But the underground man, he crashes into this wall. He knows he lacks the strength to tear it down, yet he refuses to stop banging his head against that stone. Why? Because he screams, it is impertinence that 2 times 2 makes 4. How many times in your life have you accepted something you didn't want simply because it was the logical thing to do? How many times have you bowed before that wall? The underground man does not bow. He fights that wall, knowing it is impossible, and all he gets from this fight is more pain and a bleeding head. But he loves this pain. Whisper, because that pain is proof that he is not a piano key, that he has a will that can rebel even against the laws of nature. Are you one of those who stand before the wall and say, this is my fate? Or are you one of those sick men who scratch at that wall with their fingernails? What does this conflict turn him into? A mouse. Yes, Dostoevsky clearly states, "I am not a man, I am a highly developed mouse." When a man of action gets slapped, he immediately retaliates or forgives and moves on. But the mouse does not forget that slap. It takes that insult, carries it to its hole, and works on it for months, for years. It relives that moment thousands of times in its imagination, plotting cleverer, more toxic revenge plans each time. But it never acts. That insult ferments inside, rots, and poisons its entire soul. What do we call this in the modern world? Overthinking. Remember those nights when you replayed a look from your boss or a sentence from your lover in your head for days, eating yourself alive? That is the moment you turn into Dostoevsky's mouse. There is no action, only mental rumination. A sigh. The underground man becomes inert because of his intelligence. He calculates how meaningless every action is, how the result won't change, and this calculation paralyzes him. This is what he means when he says consciousness is a disease. Fools act because they don't think of the end. The intelligent think so much that they never begin. Shame and pleasure. In the end, this mouse begins to take a strange pleasure in living in its own filth, in its own delusions, the pleasure of humiliation. Digest this phrase. Can a human derive pleasure from their own lowness, their own helplessness? Dostoevsky says yes. At that rock bottom, in that place where you know you can fall no further, there is a toxic relief. This is who I am, you say. I cannot change, and I don't want to change. As the Daily Books community, I ask you, do you have a victim role that you secretly love and think defines you? Have you built an identity out of your pain and failures? If the answer is yes, you are not alone in that underground room. We are all there. It's just that some of us are better at keeping the door to that room closed.
Now the scene shifts. The underground man leaves that dinner where he was humiliated by his peers and finds himself in a dark brothel, facing Liza. Why is he there? For sex? No. He is there to reclaim the power he lost. If I don't crush someone, I will feel like the crushed one. This is the most terrifying equation of spiteful psychology. He begins to preach to Liza about life, family, love, and a clean future. His voice trembles, his eyes fill with tears. He speaks like a prophet, but act with caution. This speech is not to save Liza. This speech is to establish dominion over her soul by probing her pain. Have you ever met someone who crushes you with their knowledge, their words, or their moral stance, making you feel soiled? The underground man is the intellectual narcissist of the modern age. When he sees Liza crying, a sense of victory awakens within him. There, he says, I own her soul. This is not love, it is spiritual rape. To strike a human at their weakest point and then extend a hand, this is playing God. And for that moment, that little man in the underground feels like a giant. But this is just a game, and the game lasts only until reality knocks on the door. Don't love me. Days pass, and Liza, believing in that savior, comes to his house. This is the moment of disaster, because the underground man's house is the refuge of his lies. He is wearing an old, tattered dressing gown. He is fighting with his servant. He is wretched. Liza entering that room is like a mirror entering the room. The man sees not his sublime image in the woman's eyes, but his own misery.
And at that moment, the savior mask falls. Shame turns into pure hatred. He screams at Liza, "I was laughing at you that day. I was mocking you. I am not a hero. I am a worm." There is a very subtle psychology here. A person cannot handle being loved by someone who knows their darkness. The underground man rejects Liza's love because that love reminds him of his inadequacy. Don't love me because I don't love myself. Is this not the greatest deadlock of modern relationships? When you open up to someone, the reason they run away is not your excess, but their fear of facing their own deficiencies.
But what does Liza do? She doesn't get angry at him. She doesn't look at him with disgust. She simply understands. Dostoevsky imbues the female soul with immense power here. Liza sees the pain behind the man's terrible confessions and embraces him. This is the underground man's greatest defeat, because he is ready to be hated, but never to be pitied. Pity gives superiority to the other side. At that moment, in that wretched room, Liza is far superior, far stronger than that educated man. What does the underground man feel in the face of this love? Gratitude? No. The desire to dominate. Even in that moment of embrace, that spiteful voice inside him does not fall silent. I must own her. I must humiliate her so that this equality is broken. And that night, what the man does the morning after that night is one of the most shameful scenes in world literature. Just as Liza is about to leave, the man forcibly shoves money into her hand. Pause. This money is not a payment. This money is a bomb thrown to destroy that human bond, that moment of being understood between them. He wants to say, "You are a whore, and I am a client. There is no emotion between us, only trade." He thinks he can erase that night, that moment of weakness this way. To protect his own soul, he objectifies the person across from him. But Liza, she doesn't take the money. She leaves the money on the table, silently, and walks out. That crumpled piece of paper is the greatest slap in the underground man's face. Despite her poverty, Liza chooses her dignity. The underground man is left all alone in that room with his money. Pause. Now I ask you, who is more underground? The one who refused the money and left, or the one trying to silence his conscience with that money? Modern man is so used to paying emotional debts with materialism. Liza's silent exit is a reality that explodes in our faces, even in 2026.
So, where does this intense, this real hatred come from? Is this character just an inkblot? No. Dostoevsky gathered the underground man not from his imagination, but from the shattered mirrors of his own soul. Let's go back to 1864, the darkest year of Dostoevsky's life. His wife is slowly dying of tuberculosis in the next room. His beloved brother is bankrupt and on his deathbed. He himself is drowning in debt, trembling through epileptic seizures as he writes these lines. This book is not a work of literature. It is the bile a man vomits onto paper to keep from going mad. The sick state of the underground man is Dostoevsky's own helplessness. He waged a solitary war against the rising rational egoism in Russia at the time, those who said science and logic will save man. No, Dostoevsky screams in that cold room, man is not fed by bread and logic alone. Man wants chaos, wants destruction, because only then does he feel human. Don't you think so too? That strange vitality you feel when you take that risk to ruin everything, right when your life is most orderly. That is the Dostoevsky inside you. Years later, Sigmund Freud would say of Dostoevsky, "I learned psychology from him." Why? Because Dostoevsky was the first to destroy the lie that man is a being who seeks happiness. He discovered that man is sometimes in love with suffering. Why does the underground man lead that wretched life? Because pain is feeling. Happiness numbs, but pain awakens. In the modern world, we call this trauma bonding. We call it melancholia. But back then, it had no name. There was only the underground. During his years of exile in Siberia, while in chains, Dostoevsky realized this: even the worst criminals could find a kind of freedom within those chains. I suffer because I want to, therefore I am free. Whisper, does this idea scare you? It should, because this is the answer to the question, why can't I leave toxic relationships? Because the pain in that relationship makes you feel alive. That uncertainty, that chaos, it is more appealing than that sterile loneliness. Dostoevsky taught us not to heal, but to love our wounds, and that was a very dangerous lesson. With this book, Dostoevsky created the concept of the anti-hero in literature. No longer were there knights in shining armor. Now there were jealous, whining, ugly, and cowardly, but real people. The underground man is the grandfather of the Joker, the father of Tyler Durden. He is the distorted reflection of modern man in the mirror. He is that small, cowardly child hiding behind the perfect selves we create on social media today. Dostoevsky asks us this: be honest. If no one was watching, what would you really do? The underground man is the confession of what we turn into when no one is looking. This is why at Daily Books we hang this book as a warning sign. Because even in 2026, at the peak of technology, we are still prisoners of those primitive emotions. We are still jealous, still screaming silently, "Notice me." Dostoevsky is not dead. He lives on in that void we feel every time we don't get a like.
Towards the end of the book, the underground man says, "Why did I write these? To justify myself? No, just to see more clearly." Nietzsche's idea of eternal recurrence sprouts here. The curse of repeating the same mistakes, the same pains forever. The underground man does not try to break this cycle. He becomes the master of this cycle. Notes from Underground offers no solution. It does not end happily. The book cuts off abruptly. The author intervenes and says, "The notes of this paradoxalist do not end here, but we must stop." This is the most honest ending in literary history. Because in real life, there are no endings, only interruptions. Dostoevsky leaves you all alone in that dark room with an extinguished candle in your hand, and he whispers, "Now find the way out yourself." This book does not save you. This book leaves you alone with yourself. And sometimes that is the greatest punishment. And here we are, in the final corridor of a 25-minute spiritual autopsy. At this point in the novel, Dostoevsky tells us about the Crystal Palace. This is the utopia of the era, that flawless structure where everything is rational, everything is calculated, and everything is happy. What is the Crystal Palace for us today? It is our smooth Instagram feeds. It is our LinkedIn profiles where we never make mistakes. It is those transparent, sterile cages we imprison ourselves in under the name of positive thinking. We live in a world where pain, failure, and ugliness are forbidden. The underground man looks at this palace and feels nauseous. Why? Because there is no freedom in that palace, only calculation. If every move, every desire of ours can be explained by a mathematical formula, 2 + 2 = 4, are we humans or are we merely piano keys? Dostoevsky says, "Shower him with all earthly economic prosperity. Drown him in a sea of happiness. Even then, out of sheer ingratitude, sheer spite, he will play some nasty trick on you." This sentence is the hardest slap in the face of the modern world. Why do we create chaos? Why do we sabotage a perfectly going relationship? Why do we drink until morning and ruin ourselves when we have work the next day? Because logic is slavery. Chaos is freedom. The underground man wants to thumb his nose at that magnificent crystal palace. He throws his own happiness into the fire just to say, "I am not a cog, I am a will." You, sitting in front of the screen right now, be honest, you recognize that moment when you wanted to smash the windows of that crystal palace, don't you? That destructive impulse is not your sickness, it is the only proof of your humanity. Why do you think we are still chasing these lines written in 1864, in 2026, in this age where everything is tied to algorithms? Because technology has changed, buildings have reached for the sky, artificial intelligences have begun to predict our thoughts, but that dark core of humanity, that spiteful and dignified rage we call spite, has never changed. The Crystal Palace has gone digital today. Algorithms whisper to us what to love, what to believe, and how to look. But the underground man is still there somewhere, behind the screen, ready to sacrifice his own comfort just to say no to this order. At Daily Books, we see this darkness not as a shame, but as proof of existence. If you've watched this video up to this point, up to this second, it means you too are tired of the suffocating and sterile confines of normal. You are one of those who would rather pluck the strings of that piano and watch the silence than be played like a piano key by others.
Dostoyevsky says, "Give a man every kind of comfort, drown him in happiness, yet he will still do you harm simply out of ingratitude, simply to be nasty." Why? Because man is not a rational machine. If the goodness imposed on us takes away our freedom, we choose to burn and destroy that goodness. In today's world, this destruction is a silent resignation. It is closing a social media account or shouting no in the midst of that big lie that everyone says yes to. The underground man is actually a hero, but not one of those shining, armored heroes we are accustomed to. He is an anti-hero, crushed under the weight of honesty, who wears his own ugliness like a medal on his chest. Have you ever loved your own ugliness? Have you ever felt that your own mistakes define you more than the perfection of others? We are now approaching the time to say goodbye, but this is only the end of a video. Whisper, the door to that underground room has been opened once. You can no longer silence that whisper. In our next exhibition, we will step into the world of classic dystopias. From George Orwell's 1984 to Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, we will discuss how humans are systematically enslaved, but how that underground spirit resists. Daily Books is not a channel. We are a search for meaning. If you want to be part of this intellectual community, this underground army, show us you're with us now. But know this, we don't give you fake personal development fairy tales or 10 steps to success guides here. Here, we only hold a mirror, and the image in that mirror will sometimes hurt you.
If you're ready for that pain, we don't want you to subscribe. We want you to join this thought experiment. My final question is this. When you wake up tomorrow morning, will you play the role of that perfect, that kind, that normal person again? Or will you be honest enough to look in the mirror and say, yes, I am an underground person too? Are we part of the future, or are we creating it? Maybe neither. Maybe we're just wounded strangers trying to lift our heads out of our own underground and look into each other's eyes. At Daily Books, we stand with those who choose honesty over comfortable lies. Until we meet again in the next video, in those dark dystopias, don't take care of yourself. Question yourself. Because an unquestioned life isn't worth living, even underground. Thank you for being yourself. Goodbye.